Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Oh, that spin class was brutal.
Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Ooh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network. Online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap, live and direct on the Black College Sports Network. Brian Fulford here and AD Drew. AD,
what's going on, my brother? I'm doing fine. What about you, man? Good to be at home for a weekend for a change.
Yeah, not bad at all. Somehow my favorite professional team snatched a victory from the Dirty Dolphins. I don't know how we did it, but somehow we did it, and I'm shocked. That's all I can say. I didn't think we would do it.
No Tua.
Well, yeah, I was actually rooting for the other guy. I was actually rooting for the other guy, but anyway, I had to call my pops. My pops thought we'd go winless in October. So I mean, well, Dad, looks like we won't go winless.
Got that one out the way.
Win. Yeah, we might only get one win. So, but also feeling good. Our Florida A&M Rattlers got a victory over the weekend. Your Tuskegee Golden Tigers got a victory over the weekend.
First time I picked up two on the same day this year.
Yeah. So a good weekend overall. Want to make sure if you're watching us out there on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the JBN YouTube channel. If you're on Facebook, make sure you sign up to like the Black College Sports Network or the BCSN Sports Wrap. Our Facebook page is out there. Make sure to like and subscribe this. And if you're listening to us, when you're listening to us on our various podcast channels on the BCSN podcast, or if you're listening to us on the BCSN Pod Zone, make sure you're subscribing to those channels so that way you can always stay informed. And a little bit later, you catch Doc's show from this morning, and then you'll get our show. So all of that will be on the Pod Zone, or our show will be on our podcast channel a little bit later as well. But Drew, we got a busy week, and it's an upset Saturday, as the headline, the head story in black college football, down go the champs. Alabama
Down
A&M,
goes Frazier.
the Alabama A&M Bulldogs. Make sure we know, for those people out there, Alabama A&M is the Bulldogs, and that other Alabama team is the Hornets. Alabama A&M Bulldogs with a loss on the road to Grambling State, 37-28. Alabama A&M was an 8.5-point favorite coming into that ball game. I don't know, Drew, if I would have taken the +9 on Grambling going into that game. Would you have?
No, not the way the offense has looked this year. You know, there's never been a question about their defense, but the way the offense has looked, no, I would not have taken those points.
Yeah, that Alabama A&M, was putting up a lot of points, and so only getting 28 is their lowest output of the season. But more so, I thought this game was more so about Grambling State, and really, Grambling State came into this ball game a lot of noise about Coach Fobbs, what's been going on there. Obviously, they're coming off the loss in the State Fair Classic to Prairie View, which is coming off 2 shutouts against FBS opponents. And sometimes, Drew, it's interesting how those FBS games affect fans' views on your season, right? Because let's just say maybe they don't play both of those games, or maybe they play one, then they have a bye week, or maybe they had played another team and then maybe played and then gone back to another FBS, where maybe you were able to get a lot. Maybe if you lost, then won, then lost. Are you looking at Grambling differently than the fact that you got shut out in 2 consecutive games?
No, I'm still not, because I don't care what level of competition that it is. Grambling's offensive line just has not looked good. The Grambling offense still left a lot of opportunities out there on the field against Alabama A&M. It's just they were on equal level. Their defense played great enough to keep them in the game, where actually to take that lead and force Alabama A&M to play from behind. And let's be real, Brian. When Alabama A&M got that ball back with 2:20 remaining in the game, everyone thought Aquil Glass was going to go down, lead Alabama A&M to victory. Alabama A&M was going to win that game by 1 point, and people were going to be calling for Broderick Fobbs' job for giving up the lead in the 4th quarter on a last-minute drive by Aquil Glass. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, had it played out that way, you're right. But I'll go back even 2 plays earlier, because had there not been the one interception that Grambling State had just occurred, right, Drew? It had just occurred before Alabama A&M got the interception. Grambling was in the red zone, and they had an opportunity to salt that game away a couple of times, really. I mean, they missed a field goal in the second half. That interception came at a real quirky point, where it's like, can you just control the ball, or can you not? If you don't throw an interception, I know you've got a new quarterback in there, freshman quarterback Noah Bowden, as I heard the announcer say in the game a couple of times. It's Bowden. That was an opportunity where if that mistake doesn't happen, Alabama A&M probably doesn't get that ball back. You know what I'm saying? And at the worst, Grambling probably gets a field goal opportunity. I mean, they kicked 4 field goals in that contest, made 3 of them. Grambling controlled the time of possession with nearly 34 minutes. However, you talk about that offensive line, and it's hard to judge. This is a game where the stats don't really match, because offensively, Grambling or Alabama A&M outgained Grambling by nearly 200 yards, 477 to 275. But it was the turnovers, the sacks. I mean, Grambling had 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, a fumble recovery for a touchdown. And don't forget the punt, the kickoff. There was a fumble on a kickoff too that led to a special teams mistake that led to another Grambling score. So, I mean, Grambling had that second quarter where they literally scored 24 straight points in that second quarter, and that was a hard hill to overcome for Alabama A&M. And so, down go the champs. And I guess, Drew, if you're could we see this coming? I think we talked a little bit about this, that Alabama A&M's next opponent is Jackson State. We talked a little bit about it on last night's watch party. Could Alabama A&M really have been looking ahead? It'll be interesting to hear.
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You're about to say something.
I was going to say, not only was Alabama A&M possibly looking ahead to that great matchup with Jackson State, what everybody thought was going to be a 1 versus a 2 matchup, but also, let's take a look backwards. Did Tuskegee expose Alabama A&M? Tuskegee does not have the talent that a Grambling may have on the Division I level. But some of the things that you saw Tuskegee do and were modestly successful against the Alabama A&M defense, Grambling did it against Alabama A&M. And also, we were just talking about this off camera. The pooch kickoff that landed just behind the second line and in front of the return guys. Right. If you remember the fourth quarter of the Tuskegee game, Tuskegee did that same thing to the same side of the field, except they put it just in front of that second line, and Tuskegee almost recovered it. So they must have picked it up on film, figured out that that's the weak side of their kickoff protection, and Grambling got it. But that was a play that Grambling they only turned it into 3 points, but at the end of the game, that 3 points made it where Alabama A&M would have had to go down and score a touchdown to win instead of possibly getting 3 to tie or to win at that point.
Yeah, great coaching by Coach Fobbs and the coaching staff there at Grambling of having the team prepared. Grambling's defense showed up, and we felt. I mean, there are a lot of people who felt pretty strong about Grambling's defense. And I think when I go back and look at some of the throws as I was watching the game by Noah Bowden, who was 16 of 34 in his debut, 191 yards, 3 touchdowns, had the 1 interception. He was sacked twice. He also ran the ball 6 times for 15 yards. 2 net yards, I guess. He had 17 gain yards, but he lost 15, so I read that wrong. But it was a good debut for Bowden, and he made some nice throws. He really played with a level of confidence that, as a true freshman stepping into the role, he stepped up. It was exciting. It had to be exciting for Grambling State, who needed that shot in the arm in so many ways. You needed somebody to be excited about for the future, and that's what that opportunity gave them. On the other side, Aquil Glass throws for 446 yards, 62 pass attempts, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
How many pass attempts?
And he was sacked 4 times. 62.
Did they have that man get some ice immediately as soon as he walked off the field? That's a lot of wear and tear on a quarterback. And we know probably 15 to 20 of those were within 5 yards of the line, but still, that's a lot of throws for anybody.
Yeah. I tell you, it's a heck of a receiving core that they have. He had 2 guys with 10 catches, O'Day Hilaire, Abdul Ibrahim, had Abdul Fattah Ibrahim had 10 catches, 133 yards. Hilaire had 161. How about the new weapon, D. Anderson, had 3 touchdowns. That's his second consecutive 3-touchdown game for Anderson. So, look, I don't know how to look. I don't know about the whole. I'm just going to be that guy that's going to push back on the whole. They were looking ahead. I get it. I know they were, looking ahead, and we know that young people may be looking ahead. But I'm going to hold back and wait to hear what Coach Maynor says on Monday, because I just got to think, when you drill into these kids day after day after day. And this is a veteran group. This isn't a group of young guys. So I think when you're drilling into them that consistency about being prepared, being ready for this moment, living in the moment, be ready for your opponent. You're on the road. This is a team that's backed up against the wall. Don't take them for granted. I just find it hard to believe you're looking ahead at Jackson State, but maybe they were. Maybe they were. It's been a long time since I was 21. So, maybe they were,
It's been longer since you've been 21 than it took you to get to 21.
Yes. Officially, I'm on that side. Well said. I'm on that side.
Hey, quick question before we go to break. Do you think Michael Jefferson and possibly Ibrahim or potential UFDAs coming out of this institution? We know Glass is a potential draft pick, possibly a day 2 draft pick. But do you think those 2 guys may be able to catch on somewhere?
I'm a little.
Ibrahim has strength and has decent size.
Yeah, undrafted free agents. Yeah, possibly. I think they can. We've seen a young man like Chris Blair from Alcorn, or a Chris Rowland from Tennessee State. We've seen those guys catch on as undrafted free agents. There's so many talented kids in college football at the skill positions. It's like, what separates you from another guy? It's not like, and there's nobody being featured like Jerry Rice back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I think Abdul.
You got 3 guys at that level on most of these teams now. Not saying you have 3 Jerry Rices, but you have a 1, a 1A, and a 1B most of the time. There's just a little bit of hair separation. One may be faster, one may be stronger, one may be a little bit more agile, but they all bring something to the table.
What helps them is, and look, we don't see the all 22 or the sky from, we don't see the view from up high. What may be helping those guys is if they're running a real pro system, and that coaches can see the routes that they're running and how they're running those routes. And so that kind of stuff may be helping them out, or it may help them out in the future. Look, we got some more FCS football to talk about coming up later in the show with our good friend Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Sports Radio Network. But coming up in the next segment, we're going to talk to a coach from the number 1 team in the under D1 polls and a lot of the mid-major polls, Coach Quinton Morgan of Langston University. He'll be joining us in the next segment. We'll find out about what's going on at Langston, a team that many people are going to have to start putting on the tip of their tongues as the rest of this season goes along. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being heard.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, can be the change.
Right now, let's see, make sure Coach can hear us there. Coach, can you hear us now?
I got you now.
Okay, good deal.
I got you now.
Joining us right now is the head coach of Langston University, Coach Quinton Morgan, taking time out on his busy day to join us. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm blessed. I'm able to get around, got great health. I'm actually on my way to go watch a little softball and support our softball team. One of my colleagues, he passed away a couple of weeks ago, and so we're just going to support his softball team on their last game for the fall season.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice.
That's like some fall ball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
A little fall ball.
Hey, well, Coach, first off, congratulations on the start of this season that your team is having 5-0 and dominating performances offensively and defensively. Talk a little bit about the start of this season and this team and where you feel like you guys are, I would say, halfway through your season.
For the start of the season, I'm very pleased because each game I've seen us progress in some phase of the game. You know, whether it's special teams, offensive, or either defensively. Where do I see us at right now? I still see us as a team that has a lot of work to do. You know, I feel like we'll still leave a lot of plays out on the field, and that's something that good teams are going to capitalize on, especially if we're blessed to get in that playoff run. And so I want to try to clean up all those mistakes right now, you know, as soon as possible to get us at that peak play.
The coach says he left some plays out on the field, and this is a team who has scored, 85 points, scored 30 points this week, 85 points the week before, 50 points the week before that, 44 points the week before that. Wow, I would hate to see when you guys get it clicking on offense, Coach.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and the beautiful thing is that it's a young team. You guys, it's really almost like freshman, sophomore driven. Like, to be totally honest with you, and I'm very proud of what my young players have been able to do these 5 games so far, and that also tips the hats off to my coaches as well. That means they're doing a great job with these young men. You know, we believe in building young student athletes. You know, I don't mind taking on that challenge of getting a 2-star and trying to create him into that 4 or 5-star by the time he leaves us. And we come to find out that system players, kids that we get as freshmen, those are the ones that you build your foundation off of. And you know, I mean, it's nice to get JUCO transfers in and stuff like that, but you'll always need that foundation, and that comes from that freshman class coming in and sticking together.
Coach, let me ask you a follow up on that, Coach. You know, you're NAIA. You know, at the NCAA level, you've got a lot of players who enter the transfer portal. Say you're talking freshmen, you're talking JUCOs. Does the transfer portal help you guys, or how does that work at the NAIA level? Because a lot of people aren't familiar with that. And does the NAIA have a similar system that the NCAA has?
Absolutely. It's almost like an adopted system. So the same benefits that an NCAA team get, same benefits I get. You know, of course, in some situations, you're able to get a kid, like say for example, who goes 4 years at an institution, plays 3, okay, but that institution doesn't have grad school. Well, I can get him down there with me because I have grad school, and I'm on the NAIA, and we're based off semesters. You know what I'm saying? And not as far as like whole year terms. You get 10 semesters to play 4 years of football. So if a kid hasn't exceeded those semesters, he's able to get that year to play for me. So yes, the transfer portal is great. You know, it's an assist just like for any other program. A lot of coaches use it for, I guess you would say, quick fixes, to be totally honest with you, in areas where they feel like they're not going to be as competitive at. So they try to find kids off the portal. It's pretty much universal, and I think it works on pretty much all levels.
Coach, we were talking about this just a moment ago. Obviously, your schedule, it's a 10-game regular season. 9 of them are conference games. But you guys did actually get an opportunity to play in the spring. Little people, probably very few people may be aware of this, but you played a 5-game conference schedule. Talk a little bit about how that experience shaped this team right now, and how that maybe went into seeding or rankings, so on and so forth, of Langston and the SAC overall.
Okay, well, the way it all started off, of course, we all know when the COVID hit, and they shut us down. And we were shut down for the fall season. We were one of the first institutions to protect our student athletes and shut it down and not put them out there. Our administration, Dr. Ken Smith Jr. and his team, they've done a great job of basically protecting us. So we shut it down for the fall season to prepare. And the conference ended up putting together a 5-game a schedule for us in the spring. And so we were able to compete in the spring, but of course, during the shutdown, you know, you're not able to do anything, no weightlifting, no anything, no team meetings because of the, you know, the COVID situation. And so the only thing we can do is basically just utilize Zoom. And when the spring came along, you know, it was just like starting all over from scratch again. You know, it was like putting on a brand new pair of shoes. So it kind of like it energized myself and my staff because, you know, after you're sitting around, you anticipated for a fall season and you just didn't get it. And now you're sitting at home and you're wondering if you're going to be able to get a season at all. So when the spring started, it was just like putting on a new pair of shoes again, to be totally honest with you. And we weren't as successful as I would like them to be. But what I did get was a great evaluation of my recruiting class that I brought in. Okay. And with that evaluation, you know, came some experience. I tell you like this here, it was one of the best experiences I had during the spring because it was just like having spring practice, but you were having live games. In our mind, we already knew that, hey, we're not going to be able to perform to the best of our ability. You guys hadn't been in the weight room, hadn't done anything. And in a lot of schools in my conference, they proceeded to play in the fall and the spring. Okay. Wow. So it was like they had a head start on us. You get what I'm saying? And so we knew that we were behind the 8 ball and we had to play catch up. So the expectations wasn't that they were high, but they wasn't that high because I knew that my kids were set at a disadvantage, and it was only for their protection. If you get where I'm coming from. And but it was a great experience. It fueled the team that I have right now because it gave these freshmen a taste of what they'll be competing against. And now that they know they took that home, they took those losses home because losses is something that we don't do lightly around here. We don't believe in losing like that. And so we took that to heart, and they came back with a different mindset. I watched them mature over a summer, and now they're playing well together, and the camaraderie is there. And and sometimes they say you got to get a couple of lickings to get better and regroup, and that's what we've done. And we just got to continue to take it one game at a time and try to go 1-0, each week.
Yeah, you guys definitely don't take a lot of losses too well down over there in Oklahoma. I mean, there haven't been very many of them in your time as the head coach. Even when you were supposed to be quote unquote down, you guys still turned around in 2019 and had a great season, and I think you tied for the conference lead. I guess the tiebreakers kind of went to another team, but you still tied for first place, if I'm not mistaken, in that year.
That's correct.
So, I mean, what's your thought on the scheduling this year? I was looking at it but let me backtrack before I get into talking about rankings and all the other stuff. Let me keep the attention on your players for a second. Let me start with your quarterback, young man Raekwon. I hope I'm saying that right, or is it Raekwon Washington?
That's right. Raekwon Washington.
Sophomore quarterback. He's tearing it up. A couple of weeks ago, part of 8 touchdowns in that 85-6 win. But then I saw, I'm looking at his stats and a lot of comparisons to Jalen Lowe, who, I mean, when we first came on the scene working with Langston, we got a chance to get familiar with you and Jalen Lowe. It was like, whoa. Talk a little bit about Mr. Washington, and does he remind you a little bit of Jalen, or how is he different? How is he leading this team this year?
Raekwon is doing great. To be totally honest with you, it doesn't surprise me though. He's a great young man. He works hard every day. He's passionate, and that's what I love about him. He's very, very passionate, and just to see him have the success that he's been having is always a pleasure. He's doing a great job of controlling the team. He stepped in right when we needed him. We ended up losing my starting quarterback, which is Larry Harrington. He went down the first game after Panhandle on an AC joint sprain. And Raekwon just picked up the torch, and we never dropped a beat. If anything, we're starting to gel more as an offense. And then this week we were able to get back to what I'm accustomed to be totally honest, which is a dual threat quarterback system. I like to play with two quarterbacks because we use our quarterbacks pretty well in the run game as well. So we got Harrington back and Raekwon back, and they managed the game very well and were able to put up touchdowns. So it's going to be exciting to see what Raekwon Washington continues to does for our offense, along with Larry Harrington at the quarterback position.
Now, Coach, when you have two great quarterbacks like that, we see some coaches get creative on the NFL level. We see like Drew Brees and Taysom Hill with packages and special plays for them without giving away the game plan. But are you looking at possibly putting those two on the field together, or will it be a one in, one out type of system or something like that, without giving out too much of the information?
It was already done this week. We had them both on the field at the same time. Raekwon is a stellar athlete. I can line him up at receiver, and he can run routes just like anybody's top receivers. And I'm talking about on any level. And so we got them on the field together. We split up the series pretty much evenly. And what I love about these two young men is that they're very unselfish. See, that's the biggest thing with it. Sometimes when you're in a situation like this here, cancers can be created, and you don't want a cancer to eat through your team because of the selfishness and worried about just I and taking all the reps and not seeing the big goal of what we see offensively as a scheme and what can hurt opponents. And so what we have is unselfish play. You see both of these young men cheer each other on when one is being successful, and they pick each other up when one is not being successful. So that's the blessing of it right there, to be totally honest with you. And it's exciting. It's exciting to have. It's exciting to play with. You always know if one quarterback goes down, you have to have that fear of who's up next, if you get where I'm coming from.
Yeah. Now, Langston, you're one of 3 HBCU NAIA teams, along with Texas College and Florida Memorial, who still compete at the NAIA level. You guys own HBCU's longest winning streak right now, considering you're the only undefeated HBCU that we have right now. And this is kind of going to lead into what Brian was getting ready to get into with the polls and the rankings. But it seems like on the NAIA level, you're not getting the respect in the polls. And yeah, some of your getting the games, and it's just how the schedule goes. You've played some of the lower rated teams in the conference. So my question to you, Coach, is what does Langston need to do to move up those ranks and get that respect so that come November, Langston is not put in a situation like they were in 2019 on the outside trying to get in to the tournament where if you get that ranking up higher, you're controlling your own destiny.
Well, what we really basically, first and foremost, I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys. In my opinion, the ranking system is very, very tough on us as an institution. It really has been for years. But what we have to do to control our own destiny is just take one game at a time. And when we do run across the ranked teams, we have to, of course, get those wins. And we got a ranked team right now in the conference, as in Ottawa, Arizona, and they're doing real good right now themselves. I believe they're undefeated as well. So I have a tough homecoming game, as you spoke about my schedule. Yeah, I played the first five was kind of like I wouldn't say I'm not trying to take anything from anyone, but the competition is going to be tough on my last 5 games, to be totally honest with you guys. So this upcoming homecoming game against Texas Western is a very good team. They were the ones that knocked off Arizona Christian, who had the highest ranking in our conference. I believe they was around 14 in the nation when the season first started, because they were the conference winners in the spring. And then Ottawa behind them, and then us, of course. But anyway, we got Texas Western for homecoming on the 16th, and then after we play Texas Western, we're off on the road to play against Ottawa at Ottawa. Okay, and that's going to be the showdown that everyone's been waiting for. It's probably like number 1 defense versus number 1 offense, or either we're right up under them with offense. I don't know. We don't really look at the statistics in that area. I just know that a lot of people just been telling us that, hey, right now we got number 1 defense. It's not something that I look up though, but we're looking forward to it though. I think the schedule was set up for us to get better each and every week, and if we continue to do that, I think we'll be just fine, and we'll be able to put ourselves in that position to be inside that top 16, as opposed, like you said, 19 on the outside looking in, hoping that we can get in there.
All right, so by the end of October, we'll know where Langston is sitting there, because you'll have those real tough conference games out the way.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. They're going to start rocking and rolling come after this week, going into next week, and we're excited about it though. I think we've gotten better each week. It's a couple of things we got to clean up, and now we're going to have some true tests in our mindset, because and that's just based off record wise. That's not saying that every team that we play against doesn't come to play against us.
Right. Well, Coach, I know you don't look up those defensive stuff, those defensive rankings and stuff, but us media folk, we love to look up that kind of stuff, and then we like to tell you coaches about it. So, yes, your defense is number 1 in the NAIA in points per game allowed. That's under 4 a game. Number 1 in yards allowed per game at just under right at 127. So give a second before we close out to just shout out a few of your defensive players who have really stood out and stepped up in this first half of the season.
My defensive line, I want to say it's a collective effort, to be totally honest with you. It's just not just one specific player. It's all 11. Matter of fact, I can't even say it's 11. It's just that unit, that those 33 kids that we bring, they're so close together, and they play hard together. And I definitely got to tip my hat off to my defensive staff, my assistant head coach and defensive coordinator, Coach Calvin Miller, my assistant coordinator, Coach Kevin Griffin, and my defensive back coach, Coach Anthony Cotton, my safeties coach, Coach Bruce Thompson. The guys do a great job of preparing our kids each week, and we just believe in just free their mind, free their feet defensively, and we swarm to the ball, and The kids have done a great job, and hopefully they can continue to do it. But then again, like I told you, we have a lot of mistakes that we still got to correct.
All right. Well, you guys have a bye week upcoming this week, so that's a good opportunity to as you said, kind of clean up a lot of those mistakes. And then it's homecoming for Langston, October 16th, 2 p.m. I believe that's probably 2 p.m. Central Time against Texas Wesleyan University. And then the following week, that'll be a big matchup, but we're not going to talk about that. We focused on what's in front of you, and that's against Texas Wesleyan University, October 16th. So, Coach, and what kind of things will you be doing during the bye week? Real quick before I let you go, how does the bye week work for you and your team?
It's a work week.
Okay.
It's a work week. I mean, every rep we bless with, we got to take advantage of it. And so we're not taking no days for granted. I've been in this position before, and I think the last thing you can do is get content about what you've done already. So, you find those flaws and you work on them. And then hopefully it just carries over into next week and we'll get blessed with another win.
All right. Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us live. Good luck to your team the second half of the season. Hey, we're looking forward to following you guys and seeing how far you all go into the playoffs.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll be back right after this break.
You,
again, thank you to Coach Quinton Morgan, Langston University, for joining us. We'll be back with Charles Edmond right after this message.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High-quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. All right, welcome back to the BCSN SportsWrap. Brian and AD here. I seem to be joined by a pair of St. Louis Cardinal fans here, as there's a
We're in the playoffs, baby.
It's playoff mode, right? And Charles Edmond joining us right now of the, of the St. Louis Cardinals / All Corner State Braves Radio Network. Charles, how you doing? Look what you made Drew do. You made him put his hat on.
Absolutely, yeah. It's postseason baseball in St. Louis. You can't beat it.
Yeah, postseason baseball in St. Louis is almost like watching Alcorn in the SWAC championship game. It's just a mainstay.
Oh, wow. You guys. let's get into talking a little bit about the FCS with Charles here, and we'll start in the SWAC. Charles, obviously, we can start with the big headline there. Grambling State at home, and your Grambling night. How big of a win was that for your alma mater over Alabama A&M?
Well, it's going to quiet the Tiger Nation for now. Broderick Fobbs, a lot of people felt, and some people feel, that if they had lost to Prairie View, Alabama A&M, and Alcorn, something might be brewing over in Tigerland. But Grambling got it done, and I've been saying this, as far as Alabama A&M, I've been saying this for the last few weeks. What Alabama A&M was able to do is not sustainable. High risk, high reward offensively, but defensively a lot of holes. And Grambling, to my surprise, starting Bowden at quarterback, his first start, his second action of the season, he played well, very serviceable, very manageable. They were able to run the football. But, for Alabama A&M, 6 turnovers. I mean, that I don't care who you're going to play. You're just not going to win on the road with 6 turnovers. That second quarter was a quarter of horrors for them. They had 3 fumbles. I mean, just the turnovers, the mistakes. And so when you look at it, congratulations to Grambling. It's one of the bigger upsets that we've seen. I know I was asking you what the line score was going in. You said 8.5, and I'm like, really? Considering Grambling hadn't scored a point in almost 2.5 games, I thought A&M would be a bigger favorite, but not the case. But congratulations, Alabama A&M. Congratulations, Grambling. I mean, Grambling did what they were supposed to do. I think they won at home. It's hard to win in the hole because we call A.D. Robinson in the hole. It's hard to win there. And it's one of the bigger upsets that you'll see. Now A&M has to get it together because now Jackson's rolling in there. And if Jackson wins that game, then A&M all of a sudden is on the outside looking in. So things are getting interesting, on the eastern side of the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
I asked Drew this, Charles, if he would have taken the 9 points that Grambling was given going into that game. Would you have taken that 9 plus 9 plus 9.5? I think it closed at.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, just considering just the struggles that Grambling has had in terms of scoring. I just didn't. I thought A&M would be favored by more than that, considering Grambling's struggles. But I think you got to give some kudos to Grambling's defense, and I think it's safe to say, even though in the fourth quarter A&M made a game of it, I think Grambling's defense is kind of the real deal. And I think they were able to keep Glass and company in check long enough for that all going.
Before I give it over to you, Drew, I think one of the things that's going to be talked about is look-aheads. In your years of talking to players, talking to coaches in the SWAC, where you have a big game almost every other week, if not every week, depending upon where you are and who you are, is the look-ahead a real thing? I think it at some point, I think it became this thing that we always talk about, but with college kids, it's always talked about as this look ahead and watch out for the look ahead. And Alabama A&M is looking ahead to Jackson State. But then again, we always hear about coaches saying going 1-0, focusing on the present, blah, 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 and looking at what's in front of us and don't discount our opponent. What's your take on, was that a look ahead spot that Alabama A&M was in?
Well, if A&M came out sluggish, I would say yes. But they jumped out 14-0. So because of that, I think the look ahead factor was kind of taken away a little bit. I think A&M was very careless. I think A&M got a 14-point lead, and they felt like they could just do what they've been doing. They could score the football whatever they want. They could be a little careless and reckless, and they can get over the hump, but they weren't able to do it this time. And, just a horrible second quarter for them. I mean, Glass, the turnover, a couple of fumbles, a scoop and score. It was a chamber of horrors in that quarter for Alabama A&M. So they got off to a good start. I would say no. If they got out of the gate slow, yeah, I can see them looking ahead. But I think Cornell Maynard is smart enough to know that his team has been able to, get by with giving up 50 points a game, knowing that his team can score as many points as needed. And it just caught up with them this time. So now they got to get back to work. And Jackson State's kind of like Grambling. I mean, Grambling is a team that wasn't able to score points going into the A&M game. And you saw what Grambling did. Now you got a JSU offense that's coming in there. They're struggling to score as well. Their offense is struggling just like Grambling's offense was prior to A&M. And now Jackson goes on the road. We'll see if Sanders and Deion Sanders and Shedeur and that offense can get it going, because that's kind of a sticking point for JSU. So I'm not going to say that they looked ahead because they jumped out 14-0. I think they just had a plethora of mistakes that they could not overcome, and their defense just simply couldn't get off the field.
Well, when you look at Alabama A&M over the last 2 games, they've given up an average of 36 points per game. They gave up 35 to Tuskegee. They gave up 37 on yesterday. They've turned the ball over 10 times between these 2 games, just like you said, Charles. So there's some serious work that needs to be done. Tuskegee, when we go back and look at it, you gave up 450 yards to Tuskegee, a team that's been trending up offensively, but has not barely put up 300 yards the game before. Had a game early this year where they barely got over 100 yards of total offense. So when you're giving up those type of points to a Division II opponent, that type of yardage to a Division II opponent, what does that say about you when you get back playing on your own level against a team, in theory, that should be able to execute a little bit better because you got the 63 versus the 36? And we talk about scholarships for those who do not know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's just go back even further on this Alabama A&M defense. Go back to the spring. Go back to 2019. I mean, their defense has been this way for the last couple of years now. But when you have Glass and you have Ibrahim and you've got those weapons on offense in which you can score as many points as you need to score, your defense can kind of cover up for it a little bit, especially when you win the game. But when you don't win a game like what we saw against Grambling, now all of a sudden the rug is pulled from up under you. Now you're getting exposed a little bit because you lost the game, even more so because you lost. So now I think, and Connell Maynard said it this morning, like, we got to get this defense fixed. We got to get it fixed right now. And, typically those things don't get corrected overnight. Jackson's coming in there, and, for A&M, I think this is their season. If they don't beat Jackson State this week, I think they're in danger of not repeating, because I think now Florida A&M, which was my pick to win the East to begin with, I think now kind of favors FAMU a little bit. Then, of course, Jackson beat FAMU, but I think some other things will happen as well. So they got to get the defense fixed, and they got to clean up the offense if they want to get to where they need to go.
And so how do you fix it in the middle of the season? If they don't have a transfer portal that will allow a player to come in week 7, they don't have a Virginia Lynchburg on their schedule to go and correct. I mean, they're in the midst of SWAC play. How are they going to correct this?
Well, I think, first of all, what I saw bits and pieces of the Grambling game yesterday. Bowden was able to stretch the field quite a bit. And I think they got to get that secondary fixed. So you got to work from the back to the front. You got to work on that back end of the defense. Bowden did a good job of stepping up in the pocket. They didn't get a lot of pressure. So I think they got to work on that front four and get more pressure on the quarterback. It's going to be tough against, when you look at Sanders, we don't know if he's going to be 100% going into the game. But A&M's got to fix the defense in all 3 levels. On the back end, in which Bowden hurt him, they got to sure up front. If they do that against Sanders, who might not be 100%, might play, might not, I think they'll be okay. But you don't tear down a defense and rebuild it in 7 days. It just doesn't happen. They just have to correct what they can correct, and offensively they got to protect the football, because if they don't do that, then instead of what they scored over 30 points, and let's keep this in mind, Jackson State defensively, I mean, we can say I don't know if A&M's going to be able to put up 30 against Jackson State the way JSU defensively has been kind of mowing people down on that side of the ball. So if that's the case, then A&M could really be in trouble if they can't score what they normally could score. It was just a matter of time before this was going to catch up with them, guys. I've been saying it for a month now. This was not sustainable. And did we start against Grambling? No, we didn't. I probably would expect it to happen next week. But it happened this week, and now they got to get it fixed as they come home because the schedule is pretty favorable for them over the next month. They're basically playing in the state of Alabama, the Magic City mixed in. I think they got 2 or 3 home games, including Jackson State. So they'll be able to fix it in the friendly confines of Huntsville or Birmingham. But they got to get it fixed right now.
Charles, let me take you to probably 2 teams in the SWAC that are trending in the right direction. Obviously, Prairie View A&M with a big win on Thursday against UAPB, which I guess did that game, do you think that sort of eliminated or took UAPB, given their second consecutive loss now on Thursday night? Did that pretty much eliminate them from contention in the West? And what's your thought on Prairie View? Did that move them? I mean, obviously, that the matchup coming up later in the year against Alcorn is now circled as big game in the West.
Well, the way I look at these standings, I look at it 2 ways. I look at it as mathematically realistic and reality. And yes, on paper, you can write all kinds of scenarios in which UAPB can win the West, but realistically speaking, it's probably not going to happen. And let's keep this in mind too. When you're looking at these SWAC matchups, you got to look at them at the games that count and then within your own division. So Pine Bluff has lost 2 games in their own division, the Western Division, Alcorn and Prairie View. So in the worst case scenario, you could lose out on the tiebreaker because you lost to Alcorn and you lost to Prairie View. If UAPB wakes up and gets it back together, they still will lose out on the tiebreaker. So those games are critical. There's almost like 2 losses when you lose those type of games. So mathematically on paper, can I write it down? But realistically, no. I don't see it happening. I think those are 2 tough losses. I think UAPB's offense has been pretty bland, albeit in the first half against Alcorn, they were pretty good. But no, I don't see UAPB repeating as Western Division champs. I think right now, there are 3 teams that I think could be in trouble. Right now, I think you look at, Alabama State, obviously, on the eastern side. You look at Bethune-Cookman with a couple of losses, although I think they could be a spoiler, and I think UAPB as well. You have 3 teams that are kind of on the outside of this picture that now I think are going to be spoilers, need a whole bunch of help to get to where they need to be.
Hey, Charles, you brought up a team that I was going to bring up, Valley. They play Bethune this week. Back in July, would you have thought Bethune would be the team going into that game winners?
No. Honestly, coming out of media day and after simmering over it, leaving Birmingham for media day and talking to Coach Sims, I thought, you know what? I think Bethune-Cookman could be the silent assassin here and knock off a bunch of teams and quietly be in the mix. But it definitely has not happened. And so, not knowing what the politics of what's going on there with Bethune-Cookman, I don't know if Coach Sims is now under the gun because his team has struggled definitely, coming out in the first year of the conference. But I never would have thought that Bethune would be the one that's winless. And I know about Valley, they're on the eastern side. And, Coach Dancy, talked with him at media day. He's just a hard-working guy that just puts his hard hat on every day and figures out a way to get his team ready to play. And they never quit. I saw the last 2 minutes of that game yesterday, and Valley just made plays. I think Central might have thought the game was over, and Valley just kept coming, and they scored the final seconds and kicked the PAT, and the game was over. I mean, just like that, you just were stunned in terms of how it went down. And I'm like, wow, did that just happen? Yes, it did just happen. Valley won the game. So it's, you have to give Valley a lot of credit. And for Bethune, they just got to get it going. I mean, if not, it could be a long, ugly season, especially if they don't win that other big game against FAMU.
All right. Charles, last week poll, before I turn it over to Brian, A&M was 1, Jackson State was 2, Prairie View was 3. My question is, who's your number one? How far do you drop A&M?
Let's see. I botched the roll poll this morning. I did drop A&M out of that. I'm gonna put Prairie View 1. Jackson didn't play. I'll keep them at 2. And for Alabama A&M, I would drop them probably 4th, maybe. I
So
can't
who's your
remember
3?
if I did it 3. Who was at 3? Prairie View.
Prairie View. You got Prairie View. You've got a. Trying to look at my teams right quick. Give me a second. You've got Norfolk in there. You got you guys in there. Those are some of the top teams. A&T has trended up in
like
some
2 and 2
polls.
or 2 and
Southern.
3.
Yeah, I mean, I think the loss to Grambling, considering Grambling's struggles, I think that one's going to hurt in terms of their ranking in the polls. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a free fall, but I think, A&M dropped. I would say they would probably be 5th, if I'm going to guess, in that. I mean, that was a huge loss. I mean, granted, Grambling defensively have been playing pretty well if you take out USM and Houston out of that mix. But that was a tough loss for them, and I think a number of teams like Alcorn moving up. Clearly Jackson's right there, even though they're in a bye week. Prairie View. I would say that A&M may barely crack the top 5 if I'm gonna take a guess.
Wow. I wanted to kind of close the segment and get your thoughts on Florida A&M's defensive performance against Alabama State. That first half was a pretty dominating performance by A&M. I believe they held 24.
2 first downs.
Yeah, 2 first downs and 24 total yards in the first half, forcing Alabama State to punt. I believe 5 or 6 of their every possession pretty much in the first half, they had to punt. And maybe once or twice went over 3 plays. What are your thoughts on what you saw from A&M's defense?
I tell you what, I mean, I think on both sides for Florida A&M, they found some offense. Was wondering about that, and they found some offense. Considering what Alabama State's defense did in the spring, clearly it's not the same. And I never thought to see that Florida A&M on the defensive side, really is stepping up. That's turned out to be, and Brian, this being down there, that Bama State FAMU rivalry is a pretty good rivalry. 2 schools 4 hours apart. I didn't know they were that close geographically, but I think a lot of folks expected that game to be. How long?
It's 3 hours actually.
3 hours.
Yes.
2 schools 3 hours apart. I didn't, that's a pretty good rivalry, and I didn't expect that type of result. I think it clearly shows 2 things. I think it shows that Florida A&M is putting the pieces together on both sides of the ball, and Alabama State offensively is really struggling. I mean, Nettles was 3 of 13 for 17 yards. They had 98 yards rushing, 99 yards passing. I think it's some tough, for Dr. Ely. I think he's got to regroup, because right now his team's kind of in a free fall a little bit with the Magic City right around the corner. You got A&M with a loss. A lot of people looking at that Magic City, and you got a new AD there, Dr. Jason Cable. So a lot of stuff in the bag there in Montgomery, in which we thought maybe that you wouldn't hear all the grumblings. But I guarantee you, over in Montgomery, there's some belly aching going on, especially after this loss and not getting anything going offensively.
All right. Well, Charles, Alcorn State has Grambling upcoming, so you guys get to catch this whirlwind. The Noah Bowden era is coming. It's off to a great start, and so you guys catch that. What's the schedule this week for your shows? I know you talk regularly with Coach McNair. What's the schedule like for this week for you?
Well, the team is back to work. They probably had Friday and Saturday off, but they're back to work. It's homecoming this week, and considering the Braves beat UAPB, fans are still excited about that. We'll talk about that on the McNair Show tomorrow night. And look, this Grambling defense is no joke. I go back to 2019. We had won 5 in a row going into the hole. And Grambling held us, this similar defense, to 16 points in 4 quarters and overtime. So this Grambling defense is no joke. And we've got the same players with Felix Harper and Pringle and company. It's going to be a slog trying to score a ton of points against this Grambling team. I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out. You know, Grambling clearly is trying to stay alive. And if they hand Alcorn a loss, then the West is definitely wide open. So it's going to be an intense week. It's homecoming. We all know what coaches say about homecoming week. It's not for the players. It's for the alumni and fans, and we'll celebrate afterwards. But this is going to be one heck of a homecoming battle as Grambling comes to town.
All right. Make sure to check out the Coach McNair show, Coach Fred McNair show. I believe, what time is that? 7 p.m. Eastern, or is it 6 Central? Right.
Yeah, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 Central. We'll recap the UAPB game and we'll try to get some highlights from the Grambling game yesterday and get some calls in. It's going to be fun. I mean, you know, Grambling beat us, I think, on our homecoming 4 years ago. You know, on a block PAT in overtime. So Grambling's had some success coming here under tense situations. So I think it's going to be an intense game. And I think it's going to be a fun game with a packed house at Jack Spinks Marino Castle Stadium.
All right. Sounds good. Well, hey, Charles, I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming in and joining us. Good luck to the Cardinals. I am somewhat rooting for the Cardinals in the playoffs. I can't say why, but I'm rooting for. I still love my Braves, but I am quietly rooting for success for the Cardinals in the playoffs.
Man, you can't. Hey, look. A month ago, they were 11 games under 500, and they won what, 16, 17 in a row? I mean, an amazing streak. And here they are in the postseason where none of that matters.
Yep. Well, looking forward to it. All right, so we got a lot of good stuff coming up in the month. One of my favorite months in the sports calendar is October because there's all kinds of good stuff going on. So, Charles, thank you for your time again. Good luck to everyone at Alcorn State. Enjoy homecoming out on the reservation this upcoming week, and I'm sure we'll talk again later.
Appreciate it, guys.
All right. We'll be back right after these words. You're watching the BCSN SportsWrap, Brian and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and parenting education coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Oh, that spin class was brutal.
Well, you can try using the Buick's massaging seat.
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Can I use Apple CarPlay to put some music on?
Sure, it's wireless.
Pick something we all like. Okay, hold on. What's your Buick's Wi-Fi password?
Buick Envision 2021.
Oh, you should pick something stronger. That's really predictable.
That's a really tight spot. Don't worry, I used to hate parallel parking.
Me too.
Hey.
Really outdid yourself.
Yes, we did.
The all-new Buick Envision, an SUV built around you, all of you.
This is Carlos Brown, letting you know that we're on the move. You can now catch the Carlos Brown Show beginning this July on the Black College Sports Network each and every Saturday from 11 to 1 Eastern Time. That's 10 to 12 Central Time. Same time, new place. On Facebook at the Carlos Brown Show and Black College Sports Network, online at www.mybcsn.net and on the BCSN app available on Google Play and the Apple App Store.
To the BCSN SportsWrap. Excuse me, moving here into the second hour of
Moved
our
into
show.
the big box too, Brian.
What's that?
On the screen. We moved into the big box on the screen.
Yeah, exactly. Want to appreciate. We definitely want to thank Coach Quinton Morgan, and Charles Edmond for joining us in that last hour. Coming up a little bit later, Jamie Walker will come in and join us as we'll talk about the SIAC. Some big matchups that happen over there. But Drew, let's kind of go through some of the talking points from just some of the other games in week one or in the week from out of the rest of the FCS. Obviously, you mentioned the Mississippi Valley State big win over North Carolina Central. By my count, Drew, there were there were 5 schools that got their first win of the season. Texas Southern with a 69-0 win over North American University.
And that's a game that does not count, though, as far as NCAA statistics. But a win is a win.
That's an NAIA school. That's an NAIA school. So, that it is what it is there. But like Doc said the other night, it's just a good feeling for Texas Southern, which they needed something to feel good about. And it was homecoming. So, it is what it is. Mississippi Valley State, of course, with the 17-16 win over Central. Howard gets their first win of the year with a 22-17 win over Sacred Heart. That is an FCS school. South Carolina State in a battle of winless teams. And I wouldn't have predicted that in this matchup at this point in the year, but they get a 42-35 victory over Bethune-Cookman. And then Virginia State gets their first win of the year with a 33-9 win over St. Aug. That leaves winless in the FCS at Bethune-Cookman and Morgan State. Yep. And then on the in the SIC, Morehouse is the last winless team there. And then what's crazy, Drew, is in the CIAA, there are 5 schools. Yeah, exactly. 5 schools winless. Lincoln, Johnson C. Smith, Livingstone, St. Aug, and Winston-Salem, all winless.
And Virginia State just picked up their first win so that you drop below the Mendoza line.
Yeah, that's what I just said. I just said they got their first win.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about the Battle of the Bay for a second, because that was a game that afternoon ball game, two old school CIAA rivals, both Norfolk State and Hampton, and they ought to play this game every year. This game, now that both schools are in the FCS, this is a game that should be played every year. But it went overtime. Norfolk State gets a 47-44 win. I don't know if you got a chance to see the highlights, but Hampton, with 12 seconds left, gets a touchdown. I believe it was on 4th down, 4th and goal. Let's see. No, it wasn't 4th and goal. It was 4th down, though. Jadakiss Bonds catches a 17-yard pass from Jet Duffy to tie the ball game up at 41. A beautiful pass to the back pylon by Duffy. Beautiful catch by Bonds. Sends it to overtime. In overtime, Hampton only gets a field goal, and then Jawan Carter makes a nice throw from about maybe 16, 17 yards to a receiver. I don't have his name with me, but he got all the way to the 1-yard line for Norfolk State, and then Carter punches it in for the touchdown. So that's like 2 consecutive wins for Norfolk State. And Drew, Norfolk State is climbing. Norfolk State is one of those schools that I think people, after the 2 losses to the FBS schools at the beginning of the year. Norfolk State has put together 3 consecutive wins now, and they're going into a bye. And they got Virginia, Lynchburg, and then they're going into conference play. But a pretty interesting run. What are your thoughts on the MEAC right now, where you have clearly Norfolk State with the 3-2 overall record trending one direction. North Carolina Central appears to be trending in the other direction. And then South Carolina State, who was winless heading into this week, gets a win, and then they play FAMU this upcoming Saturday.
Well, first of all, staying on this game for a moment, Juwan Carter accounted for 5 touchdowns, 3 rushing, 2 passing, 4 turnovers by Hampton, 3 of them on picks. And did you know, Brian, this is the highest scoring game in the history of this rivalry, with the 47-44 win by Norfolk.
There was nearly 1,000 yards of offense. Where does that? I guess that would qualify too as probably the most offensive game in the series too. Probably, right?
Probably. I mean, it was such a great game. I did not catch most of it. I did see the overtime of this particular game. So great game. But getting back to your original question, where does this leave the MEAC? This leaves the MEAC with an opportunity to get a team to the Celebration Bowl with an above 500 record. And that's the only team right now that might be able to get to the Celebration Bowl with a above 500 record might be Norfolk State. You know, South Carolina State, the team everybody was predicting to win the MEAC, dangerously close to going into the MEAC season 0-6. If they lose the FAMU, they'll be going into the MEAC season 1-5. They would have to run the table in the MEAC in order to go into the Celebration Bowl with an above 500 record. So, if you're a promoter for the Celebration Bowl, right now, you're a Norfolk State fan. You want a team that's coming in there with 7, potentially 8 wins coming into the Celebration Bowl. And would it not be fitting that Norfolk comes back to the Celebration Bowl with
Dawson Odoms?
Why am I having a brain fart right now, Brian?
Dawson Odoms.
Dawson Odoms. I don't know what Brian. I was about to say Broderick Fives was in my head for some reason, but I knew that was wrong. But with Dawson Odoms leading Norfolk back to the Celebration Bowl, a place where Southern was not able to really get while he was there, and would it not be fitting if Southern winds up winning the SWAC, as they are in a position to challenge Prairie View, who is something in mind. I know we're talking about BI, but Prairie View is 1 game clear of everybody in the SWAC, having played more games than the rest of their SWAC opponents in conference. So would that not be a great matchup? Or, you know, if Grambling get their act together, would it even be better to see Grambling and Broderick Fives bringing Norfolk in a Celebration Bowl? Not going to happen this year, but it would be nice to see something like that in a Bayou Classic of sort.
You still said Broderick Fives and Norfolk State. you just got Norfolk State and Broderick Fives on your mind. That's all.
I don't know why I've got it.
No, the interesting scenario.
Dawson Odoms. I meant to say Dawson Odoms. Yes.
Yeah. No. You know, I thought, you know, when I went back and looked at the original schedule, and then as I charted out the schedule, I told you South Carolina State has the hardest non-conference schedule. And if South Carolina State, who plays 4 SWAC schools, they're now 1-1 against those SWAC opponents, and they they play 3 SWAC schools, but 4 premier HBCU programs, because they have FAMU coming up this Saturday. And then later, towards the end of the season in November, they play North Carolina A&T the week before they take over Norfolk State. South Carolina State has positioned themselves in a tough spot where they really need to win out in order to sort of get on the map in terms of finding an at-large bid or just get to the Celebration Bowl. That's a tough spot for South Carolina State. I think
South Carolina State will not get an at-large.
Yeah, I think they blew it when they lost to New Mexico State and Alabama A&M. They blew it. They missed those opportunities. Although, Drew, wins over FAMU, running the table against North Carolina A&T might get them in one of those scenarios at the end of the year. But obviously they would probably end up in the Celebration Bowl, though, at that point, right?
Right. That means in order for them to get an at-large bid, they have to finish number 2 in the BAC, which means another loss on their record. So, no, South Carolina State on ticket to the postseason is via the Celebration Bowl.
No, that's a good point. Yeah. So if I had to handicap the favorite right now, and I think North Carolina Central has lost a little mojo. I mean, after getting beat by North Carolina A&T 37-14, and then you lose to Mississippi Valley State. North Carolina Central, they take on a Tennessee Tech team out of the OVC this upcoming Saturday. That's a non-conference opponent that you'd like to think that Central can get a win, but I don't know. You've lost twice. I mean, what kind of mojo, what kind of momentum do you have? You don't have much right now, and so that early warm, fuzzy feeling that we had for Central after their win in week 0 has slowly faded away now, and so I would have to really move Norfolk State into that front runner spot to get to the Celebration Bowl. The first MEAC game between two MEAC schools is upcoming this Friday between Morgan State at Howard. That's a Friday night ESPNU game between Morgan State.
One win between those two teams.
Right, exactly. One win between those two teams, and that's Howard who got that win. And then South Carolina State is traveling to FAMU. That's always a great rivalry. So that'll be a big game in Tallahassee. Those are two schools who know each other real well. Let's jump over to
one other thing before we leave the BAC.
Yeah.
I mean, is it fitting that the BAC gods scheduled South Carolina State and Norfolk for the last game of the season in the BAC?
Yeah, that was well planned out. Well planned out. Needless to say, definitely they did a good job of planning that one out. I peeped that on the schedule. I saw how that kind of worked out. I want to make mention of a big win in some non-conference or actually conference games. North Carolina A&T gets their first win in the Big South with a 44-14 win over Robert Morris. Tennessee State gets Coach Eddie George's first win in the OVC, although technically, as I read the article, was made aware of this. This is one of two games that Tennessee State and Austin Peay are going to play this year against each other. This is the one that didn't count.
Yes.
So even though Tennessee State picks up their second win of the season to improve to 2-3, North Carolina A&T improves to 2-2. The win didn't count for OVC standings.
And what about the OVC? How much longer will it continue to exist? Does Tennessee State stay in the OVC? That's a conversation for another SportsWrap show, but.
Well, but let me ask this. I heard a lot of people talking about that. There's still 6 football schools in the OVC. Even though Austin Peay is now the latest team that seems like they're going to be leaving to head to the A-Sun, correct?
Yeah.
So by my count, there's still 6 football schools in the OVC. So, I mean, look, they don't have to run off and leave. And I think yet, but
has Murray State left?
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's fluid. Again, the latest information that I found stated that there were still 6 schools in. Don't ask me what schools they are. I wasn't prepared to talk about OVC football, so I don't know which of those schools they are. But I know there's 6 that'll still remain after Austin P leaves after this school year. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick timeout because we've got Jamie Walker coming up here in the next segment, Drew, and we're going to get into talking about the SIAC, maybe even chat about what's happening in the CIAA. But there were some big matchups in the SIAC that are worth talking about, and so we want to get into that with him in the next segment. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap with Brian and AD. We'll be back right after these words.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
What's up, Caleb?
All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford, AD Drew here. Joining us right now is our man Jamie Walker, Coach Work Productions, and the in-house PA for Morehouse University. And Jamie, what's going on with Morehouse's home field situation? They've been playing over at a stadium over in Lake Point.
Lakewood Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah, Lakewood Stadium. It is a field. Yeah, it's down the street from the area. It's not far at all, and it's kind of conducive to holding everyone. They're actually having their field renovated. getting some turf down, some other things that are going on with BT Harvey. So yeah, they're getting those down, and according to the brass there, because they've done some changes as far as personnel as well. They are supposed to be back on there, I think, after the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic. So the 16th, I think, is when they're supposed to be back at BT Harvey.
Okay. Well, let's get into. I thought the SIC, some big headlines this weekend. Look, the biggest game on the docket turned out to be probably the biggest blowout of the weekend. Well, not quite the biggest blowout, but it was pretty close. And that was Albany State traveling to Miles and just putting a whooping on Miles, 31-3. Explain what we saw, Jamie and Drew. What in the world did we see there? Is Albany State that much superior than Miles?
I mean, I'll set it off. I'm not exactly sure what I saw. I saw a thorough dragging of Miles, and it was not in my expectations at all. In fact, I saw the teams. I thought, Miles playing their non-conference schedule showed some strength in playing really two opponents that they hung tough with in Alabama State and in Southern, and were in those ball games. But they were never in this ball game with Albany State. I've had the privilege to call an Albany State game, and they came out and showed you exactly why they're always in contention within the SIAC. Is because they have a sound running game along with a quarterback in Deontay Banu who can have those timely passes and be able to get the ball downfield whenever that running game needs a change of pace. Again, Coach Gabe Gardenia, wants to run it, left, right, and center, and will continue doing so until you stop it. And then when you least expect it, they'll take the ball back door and throw it downfield. And Miles never had an answer for it. And both offensively and defensively, Miles really had no answer. Even on the offensive side of the ball, they couldn't run the ball with Dante Edwards. They couldn't run the ball with even with the quarterback, even with it slips my mind right now, but even with their quarterback, wasn't able to run the ball, wasn't able to throw the ball at all. It was just a thorough domination in all facets for Albany State.
So Jamie, let me ask you this. We'll come back to Albany State in a minute. Let's talk about Miles. Let's talk about the SIAC West. What does that loss mean for the balance of power in the SIAC West? Well, now that you consider Lane is the front runner record-wise in the SIAC West, and quietly, Tuskegee 1-0 in conference. What does this mean for the balance of power in the SIAC West?
I feel like you found a way to work Tuskegee into that question, Drew. But anyway, go ahead.
Got you. Because I guarantee you he's gonna find a way to get A&T, the Big South, somewhere up in here in this interview. So go ahead, Jamie.
Of course. Come on now.
Look at him. At least I don't have my school behind me on my wall.
But I'd say, you know what, AD? I think we don't know at this point. I think really the unpredictable nature of what college football has been really in every single division, conference, every facet, those things that we try to predict, man, coming out of COVID, even though some teams played last season and in the spring, we really don't know. And I think the SIAC West is kind of sticking to that same mantra in that Tuskegee looked horrible against Fort Valley. Horrible. But now in these games, man, and Clark Atlanta really young. They look better. Even in the Alabama A&M game, which I guess they're turning out to be, I won't call them frauds because they're still a really good team. But Tuskegee looked the part in that second half against them. So I think Tuskegee now, Coach Willie later said early on in talking, talking to quarterbacks, and it took a while for them to kind of gel. Even when those first couple of games, they just did not look good. But give them credit. They found with Devontae Patterson. They found, really had really steady quarterback play. So I think that the way they did by Albany, I think it gave everyone. Hopefully, you can still hear me. Okay, it has given everybody the ability now to say, okay, this team can be beat. There's no dominant, side of the ball for Miles. So now his offense is there to be reckoned with. So, I think everybody in the SIAC West has an opportunity, except for maybe a Central State who, now is just has some promise. But I think it's a matter of that coaching staff kind of gelling as well. Right now, flip a coin, there's some teams that can unseat Miles for the throne again.
All right. We're still there. Let me make sure, Jamie, you were kind of. I'm hoping that maybe, I don't know if it's my connection that was a little choppy there, or did we lose Drew?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Still here too.
Just checking.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. I got you. Let me ask.
The beauty of live TV.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Technology, right? I love it. The last two times I was just looking up this Miles Albany State, and 31-3. Now, obviously, other than the coaches, I don't know how many players were still part of this, but the last two times those schools met were the SIAC championship games in 2018 and 2019. Miles in 2018 winning 50-23, and then in 2019, 21-6. So it just felt like when you see the second, third quarter, fourth quarter performance that was put forth by Albany State, they really did a good job of, look, I don't know. I'm sure they're getting a lot of calls from some alums, from some football alums saying, nice job, guys. Great job. Way to take out Miles. So let's bring this over to the matchup that I really thought was going to be a great matchup. And score-wise, it appeared to be a good matchup, but although the game might not have been as close as the score indicates, and that's Savannah State, Kentucky State. Savannah State won that ball game 21-17, but really Kentucky State got a late fourth quarter score. So really Savannah State kind of controlled that game heading into late in the fourth quarter. You guys were just talking about the West. What's your thoughts on Kentucky State, Jamie? And man, I tell you, that Savannah State Albany State matchup already appears to be that's going to shape up to be the winner of the East, whoever wins that ball game, doesn't it?
Up to be that way. I think Kentucky State still can be a contender, but I think it's a matter of, can teams stop that option or stop that wishbone attack of Kentucky State? They'll always be in ball games because their offense allows their defense to rest, number one. Number two, you don't prepare for it all the time. And I think in an earlier conversation or show, AD kind of pointed to it. There's teams that aren't built that way to stop that kind of offense anymore. So when you are able to shorten the game and disallow some of the scoring opportunities for other teams, you'll always be in ball games. And if they can't stop what you do in a running attack, you'll be in a ball game. So I think they're very well in contention as well, especially when you have some high-powered offenses like a Tuskegee can be, or a Lane. When those offenses and defenses aren't clicking, you'll have, just a lot of parity, but along with just not it being your day, the West can do so much and can be, can flip-flop so fast that we don't know who a true winner will be. Now, the East has kind of settled itself out. I think, just as you said, Savannah State and Albany State, hey, it's right there. We talked, I think in another podcast, we talked about, D'Angelo Durham of Savannah State really getting on track to kind of lead that offense. Well, Albany State with Marquise Fultz, they have the same kind of running game. So, the SIAC has been interesting really from start to finish, from its acquisitions to what's going on with it now to now the football is kind of laying itself out to just be unpredictable, which I love. I don't want, chalk all the time to a conference.
Now, Jamie, tell me, what's wrong with the CIAA? 5 of the 12 teams are winless. What's wrong with the CIAA? And most of those winless teams are in the South.
If I had that answer, I go, try to get this $670 million. That's that's about to be drawn. I have no idea. You have Bowie State and Fayetteville State. That's I think you can have some good stories. Me being from the state of North Carolina, Elizabeth City State and what they're doing right now is a good story. Although I think it'll stop at a certain
conference.
point.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. Yes. So 2-0. So just the fact that that's going on within the conference is cool. Is a cool story. But overall, I mean, the drubbing that Shawan gave Winston-Salem State, that just made me. I was shocked when I saw the score. I'm like, nah, this can't be right. And then a few other alums of the school kind of tweeted about it. I'm like, okay, they got beat that bad. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the level of football. The layoffs seem to have not affected the SIAC as much as the CIAA. So right now you still have the same cast of characters that are able to win that conference and just be front runners in that conference. But right now the brand of football, I saw Livingstone, play Clark Atlanta earlier in the year, and it was, although they had been, had a layoff for the last, year and a half. I mean, it set football back a few years, and just looking at it. So I'm not exactly sure what the brand of football is right now in the CIAA, but Bowie State and Fayetteville State are kind of still the upper echelon of the conference, but I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the rest of it.
Now, you mentioned the other school in the CIAA that we don't talk about on this show, but they are in the CIAA. They are a factor. And we got a great matchup coming up in a couple weeks between Bowie State and Shawan. Let's just say Shawan beats Bowie State and becomes the front runner in that North. Do we cover? Now, I won't say do we cover, but do we root for Shawan as a potential CIAA representative if they get that far into the playoffs?
I think
because they are ranked high in Bowie in the Division II rankings right now.
I mean, I think you have to, in the sense of, in conference pride in certain senses. I think they would be the winner of the conference. So I guess in those circles you would, only because of the competition level, and I guess again, talking about conference pride. But otherwise, I mean, it would be a surprise. Them just, being, within the CIAA and, ultimately winning it. It would say something about where their football is at this point.
Jamie, let me take you into the upcoming week ahead as we go through what's ahead for the SIC. Big matchups ahead. Obviously, you got the Morehouse-Tuskegee matchup. Where are they? Is that game officially been moved to Birmingham? Is that correct?
Yes, it's in Birmingham, Legion Field.
Yep.
All right,
3
so
o'clock
it's at Legion
Eastern.
Field in Birmingham. Benedict and Miles. Benedict is an interesting team for me because they've lost 3 games, but they've all been within at least 6 to 10 points, having played the toughest part of their schedule. Well, I don't know. This is a tough stretch. Imagine Benedict having to play Savannah State, Kentucky State, Fort Valley, Miles, and Albany State in the middle of your schedule. And so far, they've lost those 3 games to Savannah State, Kentucky, and Fort Valley, and now they got to play Miles, who just got beat. Not too friendly environment there. And then I think what we all ought to be paying attention to, Lane versus Kentucky State. That'll be an interesting contest, and I think it might be that proving point for Lane to kind of say we are a legitimate title contender in the West. What game or games are you looking forward to this upcoming weekend in the SIC, Jamie?
Well, definitely for personal standards, I guess the Tuskegee Morehouse Classic would be one to see if Tuskegee has really gone full circle. And what I mean by that is whether or not they are back. And what I mean by that is, it'll be a good matchup. I think Morehouse will come to play, even though they have had an incredibly tough stretch, especially when it comes to, Edward Waters. And I was at that game. Edward Waters beat them. It wasn't a fluke. They dominated them from start to finish. So I'm curious to see exactly what happens with that as well, and with that game. And really more for Tuskegee than I am for anyone else. Only because Tuskegee now is in contention in that West, on the West side. And I think that can be, besides Lane, because I'm interested in seeing what they're doing. Besides Lane, really taking that next step to saying, okay, we're going to take this West side over Miles. I'm curious to see if Tuskegee can have something to say as well. The Benedict matchup is interesting only in that I think, they can play spoiler at this point. With everyone going in, and I want to see exactly where the bounce back will be with the rest of the teams. With Miles, I want to see, is Miles gonna run and hide, or will it be a matter of, okay, this is still our side of the conference to win and go back to the championship game. So just really curious and really jumping around the league to see where teams' mentalities are in facing these new opponents with kind of this new normal that's going on with everyone being in contention in the West.
Drew, how about you? Other than Morehouse and Tuskegee, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm kind of like Jamie. I want to see if Miles is able to rebound and regain control of the West. The Kentucky State game. Can Kentucky State play spoilers? Or, Kentucky State still controls their own destiny in the West. So Kentucky State gets on the road, they win out, they become Western Division champions because they still have Lane in front of them, Tuskegee in front of them, and Miles in front of them. So don't sleep on Kentucky State. Yeah, so those are the two teams that I want to see right now. On the East side, I'm going to be honest, there's really not going to be anything to see on the East side until late October, early November, when Savannah, Fort Valley, Albany State all play each other within those 2 to 3 week time period. That's when it's going to get interesting on the East side. Right now, the action's in the West.
Definitely. Right. Last question to get you out of here on this, Jamie, and so feel free to don't have to answer this because I don't want to put your your status with the people at Morehouse at stake. But Morehouse is 0-5. When does that first win for Morehouse come? If you look down the road, 5 wins, 5 games left in the season.
At Clark, Atlanta.
Go across the street.
Well said. Last week of the season, November 6th. There it is. All right. Jamie Walker, thank you for joining us, sir. Appreciate you. Congrats to your Aggies, 44-14. First win in the new conference. You guys are on your way.
with 5 people there.
I didn't even look at the attendance numbers. Is that what the numbers was? That's what it was? 15 people? 55?
It was. I appreciate the win, but we got to do better. But
how low
this is
was
kind
it?
of what I think the numbers were 8,000, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It didn't look. It aesthetically was not pleasing at all. People that were there, just talked about it. I think, this is the kind of thing that we were afraid of in moving to another conference. And I think, I think I heard earlier where it was, the talk about conference realignment and what the OVC is starting to look like, and just those kinds of things. I think in HBCU sports, you have to have those factors in, especially when you don't have an opponent that people just really want to see, or a team that doesn't travel well. These are the kinds of things that's going to happen.
All right. Well, all right. Well, like you said, like Drew said, another show, another conversation. All right, Jamie. Again, thank you. Appreciate your time. When we come back in the next segment to close the show, the debut of the new BCSN Top 5 rankings will be coming out in the next segment. So you guys don't go anywhere, because we're going to give you plenty to talk about tonight and heading into the week. Brian and AD, thank you again. Jamie Walker, we'll be back right after these words.
I'm returning to Clinton, Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton, Paris, we take the pain out of being hurt.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong. Go get 'em! It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, clean bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. All right, welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Brian Fulford and AD Drew here. Just want to make sure to give you a shout out, and those of you who are watching us on YouTube and Facebook, appreciate you. Make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. as well as make sure you're signed in with us on Facebook as well. And hey, all of you, go do us a favor. Go download that Jericho Broadcast Networks app. You can find it on your Google or Apple Play Store. Just search MyJBN or MyBCSN. All right, so let's get into the debut of week number 2 of the BCSN Top 5 rankings. Now, these are rankings. This is not a poll. Obviously, polls come with opinions. These are rankings based on data. And so we take in all things considering strength of schedule, who you beat, where you beat them, so on and so forth. So, any comments and suggestions, send them to @MyBCSN1, the number 1. Let's start with our under D1 for week number 2. This is actually through games played through October 10th. And as you can see, it is very similar to last week's debut in our top 5. We've got Langston University sitting in the 1 spot, the only unbeaten team in the under D1 level at 5-0. Lane College, 4-1. Of course, got a big 71-0 win over Texas College. Albany State with a big win over Miles, 4-1 record. Savannah State also 4-1, and Bowie State 4-1. And then in the hunt, we've got Shaw, Fayetteville State, Fort Valley State there in the hunt. Drew, I'm a little surprised. How surprised are you? I'm surprised that Albany State's road win against Miles didn't push them over into the number 2 spot over Lane. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that kind of shocked me also, but like I say, the numbers are what the numbers are, and it closed the gap between Lane and Albany as I'm looking at the numbers, but was not quite enough to put Albany State over the top. As those top 3 are clearly above number 4 and number 5 when I look at the numbers on the rankings.
Yeah, like I said, the polls in the under D1 is just so juicy because there's so much fluidity with that. The fact that you got 3 SIAC schools, we know Albany State and Savannah State are going to have to play each other at some point in the season. You got Bowie State there, who really, they've got a matchup against Shawan upcoming this week, which I'll tell you, the way Shawan has looked, Shawan beat Bowie State a couple of years ago. I can't remember if it was 2018 or 2019.
It was 18 because remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 18.
They're very capable of doing it again. So this will be a good opportunity here to kind of see where Bowie is, and who knows. That game is at Shawan, so that might be a good road win for Bowie State. And then Langston has a bye. So obviously it's not that byes hurt you, but they just don't help you, especially when other people around you are doing well. So, all right, let's move over
Langston will be the number 1 next week, just looking at the difference between number 1 and number 2, no matter what number 2 and number 3 does as far as the points go, and knowing how wins and losses affect the points. One team I want to point out is an in the hunt team, Allen. Allen technically is not in the conference because their wins do not count against any of these teams' conference record. But the fact that Allen plays all of these SIAC teams can be the spoiler team in our rankings here at the BCSN.
And also, I guess while we're talking about statistics, it should be noted in terms of strength of schedule, right now, and this is right now through the first half of the season, the easiest strength of schedule has been by Langston and Lane. And that's among all of the CIAA, SIAC, NAIA schools that we have in this matrix. That those are the 2 that fall into that category. All right, let's quickly jump over
just on the strength of schedule. Albany State is number 4 hardest.
Okay, good point. Let's quickly jump over to Division I because we're running out of time here. So over in the major poll, we have a new number 1 in the Division I poll, and that is Prairie View A&M, who are 4-1 on the year, who actually jumped from 3 in last week's poll to number 1. Now, obviously, Jackson State remains at number 2 at 3-1. And look, Jackson State didn't play anybody. We get that. But Prairie View, on the strength of that win against UAPB, jumps up from 3-1. Alabama A&M, the previous number 1 team, only dropped to number 3. So obviously that sets up a matchup between Jackson State and Alabama A&M, 2 versus 3, this upcoming week. And then new to the poll, Norfolk State, who jumped in. I don't recall where they were, but they were definitely on the outside of the top 5 by nature of their good road win against Hampton. They jump into the poll at number 4. And Alcorn State, who on a bye, just by the nature of Norfolk State jumping so high up over into the poll, Alcorn State actually moves from 5 down to 4. So, again, that's how the top 5 break down. And then you can see Southern, who was in the top 5, actually fall out. North Carolina A&T gets a little bit closer to jumping inside of the poll. And then you got to, I don't know, somehow Alabama State's still hanging around. But Florida A&M is another team that's on the verge of finding their way in. Quick reaction before we get out of here, Drew, on the Division I side.
Alabama State is hanging around because they have the number 3, according to BCSN metrics, they have the number 3 toughest schedule, which strength of schedule plays a major factor in these rankings. Going in order, reverse order from the easiest schedule, Alabama A&M has the easiest schedule, followed by Hampton, Central, Alcorn, and Grambling. Thus far through the season.
All right, well said. Well, that'll give plenty to talk about as, again, that is a rankings, computer rankings, not a poll. And so we'll be looking at some of the other polls that'll be coming out here in the next 24 to 48 hours to kind of see what people think, how people will be voting. We'll see what the people think, but those are what the numbers say. Again, number 1, Prairie View A&M for the Division I side, and the under D1 is Langston University. So that's going to do it for this show. Make sure to like and subscribe wherever you are watching and listening. Thank you if you're listening to us on our BCSN Pod Zone or our exclusive SportsWrap podcast channel. You can find us just by searching BCSN Pod Zone or BCSN SportsWrap. That's going to do it for 80 Drew. Make sure to find him on Twitter at BCSN Drew. You can find me on Twitter at DRB365. Plenty to talk about during the course of the week, and hopefully we'll see everybody later as we get a breakdown. Week number, where are we at now, Drew? 5 or 6? What week is upcoming?
Going into 6.
My goodness, going into week 6. All right, you guys be good out there. Thank you. Stay safe. Thanks for watching the BCSN Sports Wrap. Peace out.
Holla.
But stay hard.